Hey, Five Finance family. Happy Tuesday and welcome to Flip It with Samara. I'm your host, Samara, and welcome. Happy Tuesday to you all. So, for the entire month of October, we're going to be talking about health, right? So, last week I came before you and shared with you some intimate details about my mental health and some of the things that I put into my life consistently to make sure that I'm taking care of me both physically and mentally. And so tonight, I thought that I have a little help. So for the rest of the month, I'm going to be having guests come on and share with them, or share with you, I should say, their story, rather it's their personal journey or how they are helping others overcome whatever challenges that they are facing around health. So we're going to talk about mental health, physical health, but it's all about health for the rest of the month. All right. So hopefully you are tuned in and engaged. If you are out there and you are rocking with us, please say hello in the comments. Let's see. We have Wayne. Hello, Wayne. Thank you for joining. We have Samurai. Thank you so much for joining. So, as always, this is an interactive show. So, I want you to please make sure that you are posting your comments, your questions throughout the live, and we will be sure to address them. All right. So, let's get back to the matter at hand. Again, welcome to Flip It with Samara. Usually, this is a show around tax planning, right? So I come before you week over week and we discuss tax planning strategies and skills. But this month, I wanted to focus on health, all right? So we have a special guest by the name of Janay Harden. She is also a client, so I'm very, very proud of Miss Janay. But she is going to be coming on tonight and walking us through financial traumas. And given that we're still like dealing with this COVID-19 issue and how it has affected so many people financially, there's a lot of financial trauma that I feel like as a whole we have experienced, right? Some we may be talking about and some maybe we're not. Maybe we're in the trauma, maybe we just came out of it, but wherever you are, right, I'm sure that each one of us can attest to dealing with some type of financial trauma in some stage of our life. So I wanted to bring on a subject matter expert to walk us through what that looks like, right, and how we can overcome that trauma. So without further ado, I'm going to bring onto the stage Janay. Hello, Janay.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for agreeing to donate your time. We know that your time is precious, and so we want to honor that. So, thank you for donating your time for tonight and educating us. So, I'm going to be taking notes. So, while you are on the screen answering questions, don't flashback too quick because I'll be writing down some notes because we all need help, right?
Yes,
Um,
we do.
Absolutely. Like we usually have Angelica in the chat and she always talks about community. And so community is a big part of us being successful, not only like in business, but also for our health.
Yeah.
So I'm so appreciative of you coming on to the show. So please introduce yourself to the Five Finance family.
Okay. Hi, finance family. My name is Janay Harden. I consider myself a generational curse breaker, a hope dealer, and of course, a melanin storyteller. I am a full time mental health therapist. I own my own practice in New Jersey where I'm licensed. It's called Restoring Your Destiny Counseling, and I'm also a full time author. So I take my love for mental health and talking about therapy and counseling, and then I also translate that into fictional novels where I tell mental health stories centering around Black teenagers and adults experiencing, mental health and kind of growing up Black in America and really what that looks like. So, in a lot of my books, it deals with financial issues, financial traumas, and those generational things and patterns
Mhm.
that kind of keep persisting, year after year after year. And then once we finally realize, what's going on, then it becomes on us to break those cycles.
I love it. And might I add, I love all of your hope dealer, generational curse breaker. Okay, with the titles.
Thank you. Thank
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love that because you are a person of color, right? That you love to identify with that and also try to educate people of color. Because I will say this, um, talking about topics like this, I think, was taboo in my household, at least. And
Yeah.
when I talk to a lot of other, Black people around my age, they say the same thing. Like, you didn't talk about mental health. You didn't talk. You didn't talk about financial health. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a conversation that you had at the dinner table. So
Yep.
I am so happy that more people like you and myself are coming out and talking about these subjects, as a way to, like, hopefully help, somebody who may not feel comfortable yet reaching out to a professional, but just let them know that they're not alone. And hopefully, like, this is going to be the starting point for them reaching out and getting the help that they need. So thank you so much for standing in the gap. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna jump right into it. So tonight, of course, the topic is financial trauma, and I'm so, um, I could say, passionate about this topic, only because I am in the financial industry, right?
Yeah.
And I know this happens. And I've even experienced financial trauma, right? Personally, yes. An accountant, yes. Somebody who is savvy in finance, yes, you can experience
Makes
financial
sense.
trauma too, right? It doesn't mean that it won't
Yeah.
happen. It just means that I may have some of the tools to help me navigate through it. You know what I mean? But it
Hmm.
happens. So talk to us about financial trauma, like what that looks like.
So I think, for everybody, financial trauma really looks different.
Hmm.
For me, once I really kind of sat down and peeled back my own layers and started like figuring out where my own ish stemmed from, I realized that, of course, I've been working since I was like 14, 15. Like I remember, lying on my working paper so I could start working early. And, my very first job was at Burger King. And I remember putting in like, all these hours just to, buy some kicks, just to buy
Mm-hmm.
some sneakers and stuff. And like, I thought that was like such a big thing. But, I also remember feeling like, okay, I'm going to keep X amount of dollars for myself. And then I have to give the rest to my mom. And it wasn't like she required that of me or anything. It was more so just I knew we needed it. I knew it would help support the family. So, that's just what I did. But unknowingly, I think what I also did was kind of started myself on this path of like, I'm a hustler. I got to get it. I got to help support the family and I'm going to work this job and that job and, put in all these hours and do what I need to do. And I think a lot of people do that, and especially Black women and Black people kind of fall into this routine of feeling like we have to make more and get more, and so much of it really does stem from our childhoods and just not having that conversation about money. So I think what's important now is the fact that like COVID happening kind of made this a larger conversation, which is like I'm so thankful for. I'm grateful for COVID in that aspect. But it did it. It made it a larger conversation. So now people are talking about, money wounds and traumas and
Mm.
where that came from, then also how it has a direct effect on our mental health and, all the different ways we find ourselves coping with poverty and, economic issues and,
Mm.
how like, we really ain't got no money, but, we're going to go buy certain things because it makes us happy and
Ooh.
like all that, ties into each other. So I'm very grateful that, I can be a part of this conversation and help it, move forward because these are things that we need to talk about. We have to.
Ooh, that was good. So I'm going to pick out that last point that you made because I feel like retail therapy, right,
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
real thing. And I feel like some of us abuse that, right? So when you start getting to a point where you're like, child, I'm not worrying about that light bill. I'm about
Yeah.
to go buy this new Fendi bag so I can make myself feel better. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah, it's
I
a real
feel, yeah, it's a real thing.
thing. Mhm.
And to me, right, because, I'm just the boring accountant, like that has never been up for consideration. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's all
Yeah.
about priorities, right? And so at a very early age, I took the same path you took. Okay. Like I was out there hustling, working when I could. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't take the same path because I didn't lie on my application by my age. I didn't start.
had to get a job. I had to flip them burgers. Listen.
Yeah, so I didn't start working until I was 16, but just the other day when you know how you get your social security thing every once in a while, so it
Yeah.
tells you like how much you have coming to you when you go to retire, whatever. So, and I say whatever cuz I don't believe the money is going to be there for me
Yeah.
anyways.
We'll see.
Yeah. But it was just an eye opening to see that I've been working and contributing to this thing since I was 16 years old. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Some people 15 when they got their parents' permission.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh my gosh, for more than half of my life, I've been
Yeah.
working. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so, and obtaining what? Like, then you start to feel like, I've been working for over half of my life, and what do I have to show for it, right? Like, that can be traumatic in itself when
Yeah.
you feel
Definitely.
like you haven't reached like a point where you feel like you should be by
Yeah.
this time. So I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of people when COVID hit, right? Especially a lot of, I would say the black people. I can talk about the black community because I'm a part of the black community.
That's
I don't
right.
think we think about our future so much, right? So when COVID hit, and let's say the job shut down for whatever, we had to rely on things like unemployment, right? But what happens when that unemployment is not enough? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, so now you're like, I don't know what else to do.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have
Hmm.
savings, right? Let's just be honest. I don't have enough savings because I always tell people, look, you should try to get 3 months of your expenses. And then when you graduate from that, get 6 months of your monthly expenses so that you have something to fall back on in case something like COVID happens, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like we were kind of behind the eight ball, right?
Hmm.
And that in itself, I think, added to the trauma. Because let's not even talk about the fact that when you look at wealth in America as a whole, right? We are not the people at the top
We are
of,
not. Yep.
I'm just saying, right? Like, we're not, most of us are not the ones in that 1%, right? If you
Mhm.
look at the 1%, and those are the people that are multimillionaires in America,
Yeah.
most of them don't look like us. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So, already dealing with that trauma, and then COVID happens, and then you're just like, what do I do? Right. So, I know that for a lot of my clients, like yourself, who are in the mental health profession, y'all saw an uptick, yes, in people coming and talking to you about these traumas.
Yeah, yeah, business was booming. I hate to put it like that, but it really was. At that time, I was working full time as a school social worker, so I was
Hmm.
still in school systems, and that was my plan. That was my plan to stay there, ride it out, and do my 30, 40 years like everybody, and then live happy, buy a motorcycle, and all when you retire, all that stuff.
Right. Right.
But really business picked up and clients were just like clamoring to get
Wow.
to therapy. And mainly what well not mainly but like a lot of what people's issues were, like you just said, it was saving money, figuring out what to pay,
Hmm.
what was the priority right now, what was not a priority, and just seeing how saving your money eventually does save you, like people always say. And people weren't being saved by their money, you
Mm.
know because they fail to plan. So a lot of that I think is so traumatizing,
Hmm.
when you realize or at least feel like you're behind the eight ball with other people, and
Yeah.
and go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I do think, that is one of the major differences between, black and white families, is that, for them, they have the foresight to think about these things and they plan it out, and, they make those things priorities, like you said. Whereas, with us, everything else is a priority
Oh my,
first.
oh my
Everything
gosh.
else.
Everything else. You know what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
gotta look the freshest. I gotta stun on these, but you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go down. But it's we're always concerned, I think, about what other people think about us
Yeah.
instead of just
Yeah.
loving yourself and appreciating who you are, who God created you to be, and just be
Yep.
you. You know what I'm saying? And I don't get caught up on what people think about me on IG or on Facebook. Who
Hmm.
cares? At the end of
Yep.
the day, I just got to be me, right?
Right.
So I'm
And
so glad that you are helping us, especially navigate through those traumas.
mhm.
And we do have a question, but I have another question for you after this question. But we're going to take the
Okay.
question from the audience. So Wayne is asking, what is the biggest problem that you see in your field that causes individuals to experience financial trauma? Well, Wayne took my question.
Okay. I'm gonna talk to Wayne today, but I see he a Buccaneers fan, so I don't know.
That's another
But
trauma.
right, right. That's drama. No, but one of the biggest things that I see right now is like how some of these things are really so subconscious
Mm,
that we don't even realize, how deeply rooted some of this stuff is. And I'll give you an example. This is a personal example, but and my mom hates when I tell this story, but I remember being a kid. I was the oldest, and I was a latchkey kid, so I came home first, and I was responsible, of course, taking out the food, getting food ready for dinner, all of that stuff. But also her thing that, and I don't know why, but just my mom's big thing during that time was get the mail. Like the mail should never ever sit in the mailbox. So by the time I get home at 5 o'clock, like I want the mail sitting on the counter. So she was very serious about this. This was an everyday thing. And like, if I didn't get the mail out of the mailbox, I would be in trouble. And so
mm,
in her mind, it was more so like, I am at work. And if you don't get the mail and I come home and there's a check in the mail or there's like a random, payback or
wow.
something in the mail, now once I get out of work, all the banks are closed and I can't go and cash that
Oh,
check.
wow.
So that makes the difference between sometimes the lights being on and the lights not being on, me being
Wow.
able to run from work, cash the check, and keep the house afloat. So I remember this was actually just this past year, 2022. We had a real bad storm in January, and the snow was like, up to like my kneecaps. And I remember going outside, this was months ago, in the snow, traipsing through the snow up to my knees, and
Right.
to get mail out of my own mailbox. And I brought it in the house, and I go in the house and I'm sitting there and like I'm shivering and I'm cold and I got these lashes on and I got snow on my lashes and I'm like, Jeanette, why did you
Why?
do that?
Right.
Why did you do that? And when I really sat back and thought about it, I'm like, that's not my trauma. That's not even my story. That is my
Wow.
mom. That is something that she did, throughout my childhood. And now here I am in my 35 years of life, and I'm still going to get the mail every single day because my scarcity mindset tells me, what if there's a check in the mail? Even though like I'm making it, I'm okay
Right.
financially, I'm not in that same situation I was when we were kids, but in my mind, it was so subconscious that I have to get the mail even in this snowstorm, you know?
Wow. And
Yeah.
that goes along with what you were touching on when you did your introduction about generational curses, right? Like, so you already have this scarcity mindset
Yep.
where
Mhm.
you're like, oh, I gotta rely on a check coming into the mail in order for me to meet my needs. And
Yep,
even though that's not your story, it's almost like you took on that story, you adopted that mindset, right?
yep.
Wow. So how do we get past that, right? Like how do we get to a point where we're saying, okay, that was my mom's story. That's not my story. And
Yeah.
so I am going to be intentional about not picking up those habits or, making those decisions in my life. How do we
Mhm.
get there?
Well, for that situation, I had to make an intentional decision to force myself to not get the mail every day. I
Right.
had to tell myself, you can wait 2 days, maybe even three, if you really feeling like you can stretch it. But
Right.
it was more of like a compulsion. Like I felt
Right.
compelled to get it, just because of how it had been all through, growing up. So once I, of course, talked to her about it and we unpacked it, and we started to have those conversations and really see like what money represented in her life and how it was translating down into
Mm,
her children. It helped me and it helped her. And I realized, once we start talking about these things and open up the conversation, we become the lighthouse,
mm,
and we become that lighthouse, and everybody else benefits from that light because now we see and now we know. So we have to do different. We have to be better based on, the new knowledge that we have now. So I think that, for us now and, 2022, 23 or whatever, that looks like, podcasts, and that looks like
Mhm.
YouTube channels, and that looks like, doing your own research to figure out, like, what is my relationship with money? What is
Mm.
my story with money? Like, do I feel abundant? Do I feel like, I need to work all these jobs to, keep the income coming in? And, do I even feel worthy of a vacation? And, or do I feel
Mm.
guilty? Like, really for figuring out what is our relationship with it and how we can use our time more effectively to where it's not breaking down our bodies in the process while we're trying to get money.
Right. And I also would go further is to say, like, we have to make sure that the things that we feel bring us happiness and joy for the moment, we are
Yeah,
not becoming a slave to those things, right?
yeah,
Because like you said, if you hustle, 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 you're trying to work, work, work because you want to drive the new whatever, or you,
yeah,
you want to
yeah,
rock the new whatever, then I feel like that's doing more damage to your physical health, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And probably your mental health as well, because what is left to give to the people around you, right? This is why
exactly.
I do like these lives, and this is why I'm on YouTube doing the podcast and all of that, because of what you said. I learned how to deal with money, how to deal with certain aspects in my life, sometimes the hard way. I'm gonna be totally honest,
Yeah,
but I want to share what I have learned in hopes that somebody else won't go down the wrong path.
yep,
So I appreciate you sharing that story because I feel like a lot of us do things and we really don't even understand where the
mm-hmm,
origin of it came from. You know what I mean? Because we're not sitting down and doing a deep dive as to, why I operate or move this way with money. Um,
yep. Yep, and we don't have those conversations with ourselves, and in an honest and an open way. Because
mm,
some people are like, yeah, I talk to myself and I ask myself, but like, really, really, are you listening? And you really like figuring out why you do the things you do, because all of it affects you. How you just said, like, making different things a priority. Like, some people really weren't taught to make things a priority.
mhm.
Some were really taught, hey, you got three bills, you pick one to pay, and then the rest of it, you go get whatever you want to get. Like, people
Wow.
were really taught those things.
Right.
So there's no concept of priority. So we have to reimagine and redesign our own relationship with money and what that looks like. And also just know, like, we are so deserving of these things. Like,
Mhm.
our abundance has been bought and paid for, generations before us, sort of thing. But again, like, we have to see that, so we have to do things differently. It starts with us.
I 100% agree, and I love your wording in saying that we are deserving of this, right? So changing that mindset, right? Because some of us feel like I'm not worth that.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
don't deserve to live
Hmm.
this way. I don't deserve to have abundance. And again, that just goes back to like your rearing, right? What you were taught, what you were trained, what you were exposed to. I
Yep.
feel like when you know that saying, like, when you know better, you do better. And I
Hmm.
really do feel like that's a true saying. And my parents used to say that to me all the time. And I never really grasped it until I got older. And then I was
Hmm.
like, wow, that's what that means, right? So how would I know that I should start planning for my retirement at the age of 20 if I didn't see it? Like if
Hmm.
that concept wasn't even talked about, right? That's why I
Yeah.
talk to my kids about. My kids have 401ks right now.
Yes.
Because like
Okay.
it was a
Write that
concept.
down so I can give my baby a 401k.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. 401ks, IRAs. I mean, right now, and they're not even done. Like some of them aren't even done with high school yet. I have one child that is in college. But I mean, think about that. Like, think about the advantages, right, that I'm creating for them. And when
Hmm.
you start younger, I always tell people your money works harder for you the earlier you start, right?
Yes.
So when you start younger, you can start small, and then they have something that they can build on and you can pass it on to them. That's the inheritance that I wish,
It is.
I
That's
had,
the
right?
flex. That's the
Is
flex right there.
right, the knowledge and a start, right? A start.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate like your transparency and being open with that experience, because I think it's definitely going to resonate with a lot of people. And now people are going to be thinking about like, I didn't even think that that was trauma, right? That's just what I saw.
Mhm.
So I did what
Yep.
I saw. But we have one more question. So Samurai is asking, Janae, in your experience, does financial trauma bring about any other kind of trauma that individuals have to deal with? This is a good question.
That is, and I think financial trauma, is a in direct correlation to our physical trauma and how it shows
Mm,
up in our body. We know any sort of trauma shows up in physical ways anyway. So when it comes to financial trauma, that could be your arms sweating, you all stressed out, your shoulders all high, walking around all stiff,
right.
your stomach hurting a little bit more, just based on having fearful conversations with other people
Mm,
about like I had a therapy client the other day I was talking to, and like part of our session was she wanted to borrow money from her mom, and it was like a large sum of money, but I visibly saw her shaken, just to even
wow.
have this conversation with her mom. And like, her voice was cracking and she kept saying, well, my stomach hurts. And I'm like, your body is speaking to you. Your body is
Right.
telling you things. So, like, again, these are all like subconscious things that we have to be aware of, because if we already know, like, all right, my heart is pounding, my chest is a little tight, I'm feeling some type of way, where is that stemming from? Why
Mm,
is that showing up in the way that it's showing up? Because it's telling me something. But again, I'm so quick to, like take migraine medicine, or, shush it away with, certain other things that we spend money on, and,
mm-hmm.
all Friday nights at the bar and like all these different things. But it's like really like our body is telling on us, but we have to start listening. We have to.
Yeah, I think, like you said, oftentimes we address the symptoms and not the issue, right?
Right. Right.
And I know that, I've personally done that in the past, and it is not helping me nor everybody around me, right? Because I feel like your community, like the people that you have in your close inner circle, they want to help you too. Like if they truly are, people that love you and care about your well being, they want to help. But if you don't know you need help, or you don't know how to communicate it, right? Because you
Mhm.
get so
Mhm.
nervous about it and it's such an uncomfortable feeling, then they
Yep.
don't know how to help you.
Yeah,
So,
and
that
some people just don't have the language for it, to
right.
really kind of put their like money woes into, some sort of like communication to even ask for help. Also, like, people have to keep in mind, like, you have to be friends with people who are smarter than you. You have to surround yourself with those people who are doing better than you, or doing what you want to be doing eventually.
Right.
Like, we should be sitting around just, shooting ish and just talking junk about people and all that. Like, we talking about businesses, LLCs,
Right.
401ks,
Right.
like we're having those conversations and making it a normalized thing, in order for you to be like, now the light bulb's going off. I've never
Right.
heard of that. Let me check into this. And, one conversation can lead you down so many different rabbit holes, but we have to be able to follow those rabbit holes, and also know that, like, when it comes to, recovering from financial trauma, the path isn't going to be laid out in front of you. Like, there's not going
Mm.
to be no direct route that's going to say, this is the way, you can take to, heal yourself, sort of thing. But like, you have to continue to take those steps so the path can kind of unfold in front of you.
Oh, I love that. So your advice is just start. Start somewhere. Like start
Yeah.
on the path, and then watch the path be created as you take the journey. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that.
be open, be open to learning something new. Like, we don't know everything, like up until, no lie, like up until about like maybe 3 years ago, I didn't know what a deductible was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I literally was like, what is that? Like, I hear it all the time. What
Right.
is it hurt? What does
Right.
that mean? You know what I
Right.
mean? And once I finally was like, all right, stop being, dumb, like go actually and research and figure it out. But
Like,
like, this is what we do. Like, we have to be able to like just keep following those things that we're unsure about or we need more information about, and just seeing where it leads us.
right. And I agree. I say that often, like you when I stop learning, I'm going to be dead, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like as long as there's life in my body, there's always opportunity to learn and grow. And I feel like if more humans would take that same approach, like this world would be such a better place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be around a know-it-all, right? I'm using my air quotes for those of you who are listening to the podcast because nobody knows it all. Like there is nobody on this earth that knows everything, right? There's
Mhm.
some people who think they know everything, but they don't. There's
Yep.
always room and opportunity for us to grow and to learn. And I feel like we all should approach it from that aspect. So I 100% agree with that approach. And I approve this message. I feel like I've been hearing that a lot. It's election time. So I approve this message. But I think that is a great note for us to end the conversation on tonight. And I want to be mindful of your time. Thank you, Five Finance Family, for engaging. So, because you have all of this knowledge now and you are so eager to share, please let us know how we can connect with you and talk to us about your books too.
Oh yeah, my book babies. Yes, yes. Okay. So these are my book babies. So I consider myself, like I said, the melanin storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
I take my love for therapy and talking about what that looks like in Black teens and adults, and I put it into just a creative storytelling way. So I write full length fictional novels. They are set to it's a fictional story, and it's for us, it's about us.
I love it.
It's very much, yeah, just talking about, like we discussed, financial traumas and like kind of how it looks like in your life. So this is my first book baby. This one's
Oh, hey,
called
brown
Hey
girl.
Brown. Yep. And this one is about, it's a Black family that lives together, and everything is going pretty well until Child Protective Services comes along and takes away one of the cousins in the family. And he ends up moving in with another family, and he's very traumatized. He has a lot of behaviors, stemming from like economic issues, poverty, abuse, neglect. And he ends up like turning their house upside down. So the
Mm.
book moves through like how the family rebuilds themselves after they become aware of these things. And so my next two, so these two are part of a series. So this one's the first one in the series. It's called 42 Minutes. And this one is called Someone More Like Myself. So this is the Indigo Lewis series. And pretty much, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the TV show Dexter, but this is pretty much like a Black version of Dexter. So it's about another Black teenage girl. She attends an all-white high school, and there's a lot of racism, a lot of bullying, a lot of economic issues. She's also suffering from mental health issues, and she's trying to find a therapist to like kind of navigate, because she knows something is going on with her. But they're like, oh, we don't take your insurance. You can pay out of pocket. It's 150 an hour. She's like, oh, I'm 17. So like it's a whole big thing. So she ends up kind of seeing herself as like a vigilante, and kind of turns into like this Black Robin Hood, and starts like taking people out in her community that are like doing bad things. So it starts with her in high school and then follows her into college. So these can be found at my website, which is www.naywrites.com. It's NAYWRITES.com. And I primarily live on Instagram and TikTok at author Janay. And I post all about my books and my therapy stuff and just, my thoughts about like writing and what that looks like. And for me, writing is definitely a passion. It's what I love to do. And I love to, like I said, combine my two loves, therapy and writing. And, I treat it like a full time business. It's not a side hustle. It's not something that I just do for fun. My flex and my black girl luxury looks like royalties. And I
Mm.
want to continue on, way past when I'm gone. I want my daughter to still be able to live and live well off of, royalties that, mommy provided. And, I want that to look like, future movie deals and different things and different avenues that I've turned it into. So, yeah, this is me. This is my books, and just thank you. I'm very grateful for being here, being able to talk about this, because this is something that's very important to the community as a whole. So I think this is what it looks like when you let your strengths and you
Mm.
let your love lead you and guide you into turning it into something profitable.
I 100% agree. And on that note, I'm not going to add any more to that because she just wrapped it all up. It's such a beautiful package. And this is why I had to have you on this show because we're both passionate, right? When we met, right, I felt like you were all the way together. I was like, she don't need me, honey. But
And you
definitely.
saw I did. I did. And see, but again, I think you saw firsthand my financial traumas, because I would be emailing you at like midnight, like worried about money, and had my calculator out, and I'm like,
Right.
oh.
No, but we definitely got through it with just strategizing and
Yeah.
planning, right? Like we had to create a plan together and then you just took it and worked the plan. And so that's where community comes in, people. And that's why Janay is saying you have to talk, right? You have to be vocal about what you're needing, what your traumas are, and ask for help. So thank you, Janay, so much for donating your time tonight. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I know that the Five Finance family appreciate it as well. So thank you for answering their questions along the way. I am going to ask you to wait backstage while I say goodbye to everybody, but we will connect soon. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right, Five Finance family, thank you so much for joining another episode of Flip It with Samara. I know that I learned a lot having our subject matter expert and published author in the house, Janay Harden. So thank you for your questions, your comments. Hopefully, this was encouraging to you. Make sure that you visit her website. I made sure to put the website in the comments. So go there, connect with her, buy a book while you're there, right? But if you need someone to truly talk about your financial traumas and how to help you navigate through those, definitely while you're on her website, book a consultation with Janay. All right, wealth of knowledge, right? And someone with a heart and is passionate about what she does, right? So, again, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Flip It with Samara. I hope you all have a blessed and wonderful Tuesday evening. And until next time, we will see you soon.